Hi, in this video called How MRDCL Works with Data, we're going to take you through the steps to actually pick up data from a data file and just show how a script in MRDCL relates to that data. Now, for this example, we've got some data which I'll show you in a second, which has just two questions in it, question 1 and question 2. So if we have a look at this script in brief, first of all, you'll see at the top here we have a control stage which tells it what the data file. That's called data1.asc. Down here we've got some script that tells it where the serial number is, or the record number, and the length of the characters, number of characters in the ASCII file, which has been set to far higher than it needs to be. Now we move into the script that actually defines the variables to read the information from our data file. Now don't worry about the syntax at this stage, this is all covered in the subsequent videos. So here we're defining a variable called question1, and it's picking up that data from the 5th field in the data, and it's picking up codes 1 and 2, or 1 to 2, with an error on the end for anybody who doesn't answer the question, which we might call a not stated. And you can see here the text that refers to that, yes, no, not stated, and a title here. We'll learn the details of this in another video. And then further down here we have another variable called Q2, which is picking up data for code 1 at the 6th field, code 1 at the 7th field, and code 1 at the 8th field. And again you see some text and a title relating to that particular variable. Now let's move to the data and see how that ties up with the data. So here's our data file. So if we look at the first record in this data file, the first respondent is 0001. In the 5th field we have a code 1. Now that relates to question 1 in that script that we saw just now. And you may recall in the 6th, 7th and 8th fields we picked up the code 1s for a multi-response question where there were 3 different answers. So for that particular question they could have chosen all 3 answers, or they could have just chosen one of them, or none of them indeed. And in this data, 1 denotes that they chose that response, 0 or blank would denote that they didn't choose it. So for the first respondents, this particular response was chosen for the first response, the second response wasn't chosen, and the third response wasn't chosen. Whereas when we get to the second respondent, all 3 responses were chosen, and therefore 111 appears. And finally the third respondent, just the third response was chosen. So that all ties back to the script that we've got. So we can see here that question 1 is picked up from question 5, or the 5th field in that data, and question 2 is picked up from the 6th, 7th and 8th, just picking up the code 1s. And then at the bottom here in a table stage you can see that we've analysed question 1 by question 2 to get a cross tabulation. Now if we look at that data, we would expect that for question 1 we'll get 2 people saying the yes answer, 1 saying the no, whereas for question 2, 2 people will give the first response, 1 the second response, and 2 people would give the third response. So let's look at the table now to see what happens. Let's open that table, and sure enough, there we have 3 respondents, 2 saying yes, 1 saying no. For question 2, which went across the top of that table, 2 chose the first response, 1 the second, and 2 the third. And in here, of course, in the table, we get the cross analysis of that data. So that's a very quick, brief introductory video that takes you through how data gets picked up in MRDCL. Most data that MRDCL processes these days is in ASCII format, and indeed that data file we looked at just now was an ASCII data file. And we can see that because it's readable in a text editor. You could use Notepad, for example, to open this file, and the file extension ASC tells MRDCL that this is an ASCII file that can be opened and read as an ASCII set of data. Now, MRDCL does support other data forms. It does support binary in various forms, and also supports CSV and Excel files. But that's the end of this video for now. If there's more getting into MRDCL in the subsequent videos that really teach you how to use the syntax and start to specify variables so that you can read data of this type. Thank you.